What's up guys, One Koala Man here, bringing you our review of episode number 2 of Fairy Tail. And this episode was pretty much an intro to everything, all the members of Fairy Tail, and pretty much the gist of what goes on in Fairy Tail. And also, if you missed our last review episode, our review of episode number 1, go ahead and check that out. I'll try and leave a link in the description below. So we start this episode at the Magic Council, which is a group of some of the most powerful wizards in all of Fiore getting together and having a meeting about Fairy Tail and their destructive ways, because every time they go out and do a job, apparently, they just destroy everything. And this blue hair guy with a pretty cool tattoo on his eye, I don't know if it's a tattoo or a birthmark or whatever, he's saying, but without Fairy Tail, we wouldn't have anything, it wouldn't be interesting. Moving on from the Magic Council and their issues with Fairy Tail, we move on to Natsu, Lucy, and Happy when they're at Fairy Tail. And when Natsu kicks the door down, he yells at some guy saying that he lied about Salamander being at the port town of Hargion. So they start brawling, and then Lucy is super ecstatic about what's happening, and then everybody starts brawling for whatever reason, and then we get the introductions of every main member. So the first wizard we're introduced to is Gray Fullbuster, and Gray is a very interesting case because he likes to, you know, kind of strip, and not kind of, he'll be clothed one moment and then the next moment he'll just have nothing but his underwear on, and very odd. But hey, some people like it, and I'm sure there's a reason behind it, and I'm sure it'll be uncovered as the story develops Gray. Our next wizard is actually a female wizard by the name of Kana, and she is probably the heaviest drinker in the whole guild of Fairy Tail. And she literally drinks by the barrelful. Moving on, we have this brute of a man, Elfman, and he claims to be a real man. The only way he loves to solve problems is using his left fist and his right fist. Or right fist and his left fist. Yeah, his right fist and his left fist. And he knows how to be a real man. So guys, if you need help on how to be a real man, go to Elfman. He'll teach you how to be a real man. Next up, we have our ladies' man, Loki. Even though there's not much to say about him. So moving on from the ladies' man, we go to the man's lady, who is Mira Jane, and she is the pinup girl for Sorcerer Weekly, which is the equivalent of People magazine for Fiore. And we don't really know much about her so much yet, except for the fact that she's an employee for Fairy Tail. So before I introduce our next wizard, let's continue with what's happening in the guild. So everyone's starting to brawl, and then people start using their magic. Gray, it has some sort of ice that comes from his hands when he holds it like this, and Kana uses her cards to do some sort of magic. Loki has 2 magic rings to do whatever with, and Elfman he reaches his hand up in the air and his arm changes into a stone, like a stone arm. So he probably has the power to change his arm into different material or different things besides just a human arm. But anyways, after people start using their magic and getting ready to use their magic, we get our introduction of Makarov, who is this big, giant force to be reckoned with. So he wants you to think. After he, you know, breaks up the brawl and all that, he transforms from this big, giant self down to a little, fun-sized person. And he's got his little elf hat, his little elf shoe. He looks like an elf, kind of, but he's cool. He's actually part of the Magic Council, too. So that makes it a lot more interesting. So it makes you wonder, what kind of power does he have? What makes him so powerful to be in the Magic Council? So the last thing we're introduced to, guild-wise, because we still have a few more things to introduce a little bit later on in the episode. But the last thing in the guild that we're introduced to is the request board. And what the request board is it's people sending in requests for jobs, whether it be anything simple from like mowing the lawn to keeping a city from getting attacked by some monsters. And each request has a different pay rate. So the mowing the lawn might have, I don't know, maybe 400 jewel as the prize or the reward, and then the defending monsters might have as much as 200,000 jewel as the reward. So it kind of, the request board differs in difficulty. So moving on with the story, Lucy is sitting at the bar area with Mira Jane, and she's getting accustomed to what fairy tale life is like. And Natsu and Happy, on the other hand, are looking at the request board to see what kind of jobs there are and what the pay is and all that good stuff. And then a little boy by the name of Romeo comes in hysterically and tells Makarov, the master of the guild, that he wants somebody to go find his father who went missing on a job for about a week, and his father told him that he was going to be back he was going to be gone for a few days. Ended up being like a week and a half, and so he's super worried. So after the boy, Makarov says no, I think he says no, and the boy punches Makarov right square in the face, just cold cocks him right in the head, and he leaves saying he hates all of Fairy Tail. And Natsu, I guess that strikes a nerve with Natsu, and he punches the request board, and him and Happy head out the door. And all at that same time, Mira Jane is discussing with Lucy that Natsu is kind of relating to Romeo, because Natsu's dad, who was Igneel, and if you remember in the last episode, Igneel is a dragon. So Natsu's dad, which is a dragon, left him a few years ago when he was still a kid and never came back at all. So then we cut to Lucy, Natsu, and Happy on a little carriage with a purple pig swine looking thing. And of course Natsu is really sick and gets super sick of motion, so he's, you know, on the floor doing his thing. And Lucy decided to go with them, of course, and so that's their first official job as a team. So their carriage ride stops because that's the farthest they can go, and they're at the base of a mountain called Mount Hakobe, and it's like kind of like a equivalent of Mount Everest. And so they're climbing up it, and Lucy is in her little skirt and her light clothing, and there's a big old blizzard happening in this mountain. So she gets super cold, and she brings out a celestial spirit by the name of Horologium. Horologium, if that's how to spell it, or say it. I don't know how to say it that well, but it's Horologium, and it's like a little clock. Well, it's not little, it's pretty tall. It's a clock, and it kind of reminds me of the clock from Beauty and the Beast. It kind of looks like that, kind of similar. So Lucy happens to jump into the clock, and the clock has legs, so he can walk too, and whatever she says, he narrates. So he's like a little narrator for her. So if she were to say, "Oh, it's super cold out here, why'd you make me go with you?" He would say, the clock would say, Horologium would say, "Oh, it's super cold out here, why would you make me go with you?" She says. Like, he would just say, "she says," and add like a little adverb or adjective to how she said these things. So they're walking alongside the mountain, and this big old monkey thing, also known as a Vulcan, comes out of nowhere, takes Horologium with Lucy in it, and takes them to its cave. And when they're in its cave, Horologium disappears and leaves Lucy in the dust because his time was up. It's kind of a, no pun intended, but his time was up, and turns out this Vulcan is a huge perv and starts getting googly eyes over Lucy. The only thing that would get googly eyes over Lucy. Pretty shocking. But yeah, so this thing gets googly eyes over Lucy, and Lucy decides to bring out her another celestial spirit who we're introduced to is Taurus, and Taurus is another zodiac. So we're introduced to Aquarius and Taurus. So I wonder what other spirit she has. And Taurus is a big bull with a giant battle axe, and Taurus is also quite a perv and loves Lucy's body and adds moo to everything, like inside of word, like smooch. Like he adds emphasis on the moo part and smooch. But the way the Vulcan and Taurus start fighting is that the Vulcan loves Lucy and Taurus loves Lucy, so they kind of fight over Lucy. So as Taurus and the Vulcan are fighting, lo and behold, Natsu comes in and kicks him in the face. And the him I'm referring to is not the Vulcan. He kicks Taurus in the face because he's never seen Taurus. So he kicks Taurus in the face, knocks Taurus completely out cold, and that just leaves the Vulcan. And Natsu thought Taurus was a monster, so he thought it would be a win-win. He just kicked one monster and got the other one out of the way. But not the case. So anyways, Natsu and the Vulcan start fighting. They start going at it, and Natsu, of course, gets his little spring of action and has a Fire Dragon Iron Fist, which is kind of the same move as the Fire Dragon Roar, but instead of, you know, blowing the flames out of his mouth, it's like his fist comes completely engulfed in flames, and he just punches this Vulcan, knocks him into the wall of the cave, and is done. It's a good 3 count for that Vulcan. So after the Vulcan got completely obliterated by Natsu, a big puff of smoke comes around the Vulcan, and turns out Makao, the guy they were trying to save, turned out to be the Vulcan. And Happy actually reveals that Vulcans have possession magic, which means they can take over one's body and use it as their own. So apparently the Vulcan took over Makao, and Makao turned into a Vulcan, and it was completely under the Vulcan's control, and he couldn't really do anything about it. So after all is said and done, they rescue Makao, and they go back to their town of Magnolia, which is where they reside, and little Romeo is on the little step on a stoop, and Makao, Natsu, Lucy, and Happy come to him and, you know, say that Makao's fine. And then a big old heartfelt moment comes with father reuniting with his son, and, you know, tugging at your heartstrings a little bit. And that honestly pretty much ends the episode. And well, actually, to end the episode is a journal entry that Lucy has written down, and she's just narrating it. So until the next episode, I wonder what's gonna happen. Alright guys, you know how I like to end off these episodes with a question of the day. And today's question is, of all the people and celestial spirits we got introduced to today, who is your favorite? We got Gray, we got Loki, we got, I'm looking at my notes, we got Kana, we got Elfman, Mira Jane, Makarov, Horologium, it's a hard one to say. Anyways, we got Horologium, and we have Taurus. So in the comments down below, type down your favorite your favorite person we got introduced to in today's episode. Mine personally is Horologium. Why do I like Horologium? Because he reminds me of the clock from Beauty and the Beast, and I love his voice and how he narrates whatever the people inside of him are saying. It's just super funny. He's a super funny clock thing. I just love Horologium. Alright guys, that does it for today's episode of our fairy tale review. If you're excited about this review, hit that like button down below, hit the share button, hit subscribe, whatever you want to do, and I will see you guys next time.